welcome to Thinking Out Loud. I'm Joel.
I am Brad. Hello again from Detroit.
Hello from sunny Detroit. Sunny, beautiful, wonderful Detroit.
Vestless Detroit.
City. So here's what we got today. Lots of news, lots of trends. We're going to zero in on one trend, which is
L-I-V-E, live video.
Live video. Everybody's getting in on the mix. YouTube now has just lowered their threshold for who can participate in live videos. Obviously, Twitter's been doing it for some time.
Facebook Live.
Facebook.
Mark Zuckerberg.
I could not think of Facebook. I couldn't think of
No,
the word, which is
that's
fantastic.
not a bad thing.
That is immensely encouraging to me. And then the
Yes.
other platform, Instagram, also doing live as well. So, questions for our crew is, what's the impact going to be of all these new live videos for marketers? How do they use it? Should they use it? How is this going to change the marketing landscape?
And I would even go a little bit narrower for a second part of this conversation, which is, what does live video mean for influencer marketing? So we live and breathe influencer marketing. If you're watching this video, you probably have a little bit of an interest too. So let's make sure we hammer home what it means for influencer marketing.
Okay, excellent. So context, background, live videos are becoming increasingly prevalent. Give us some stats.
Look, you guys know the narrative. Let's dive in. So 43% of marketers are planning to use live video over the course of the next year. That's not to say influencer, but that's a huge percentage of people who are now incorporating live into marketing.
What's the increase from last year?
That is, what is it, 14%?
14.
Yeah, so we're going up pretty significantly from last year to this one. And in Facebook now, 1 out of 5 videos is shared live. So that's pretty significant because Facebook Live is a very, very new platform, even in the digital media world, and to have 20% of your videos going live, that means something. Now, look, Facebook Live has gotten a lot of press recently in terms of violent acts that have been part of the platform. That will remain a huge issue going forward. It may even be so much so that they decide to pull out Facebook Live entirely. I don't foresee that happening.
I doubt it. There's no way.
But they're going to have more policing of it because it is becoming a big problem. And look, this is a tangent, but we're seeing on YouTube huge problems with advertisers not wanting to be associated with rogue videos. And similarly,
specifically jihadi video.
Yes, rogue jihadis.
Rogue is a very charitable term for Islamofascists.
Yes, well, and then now YouTube's going even further, and they're applying some of the same rules now to gun channels and so forth, which is going down an awfully slippery slope in terms of YouTube saying what is okay content. I mean, there's certain things that are clearly out of bounds, terrorists, and there's things that there's a really healthy debate as to whether or not guns in general should be viewed as inappropriate content. I do not personally think so, and I think that's a danger. In going back to Facebook Live, like, hey, how far is the pendulum going to swing as people are shown literally being killed on Facebook Live? That's not acceptable. So there's inherent risk to any platform. There's inherent risk to any sort of live platform in general. But I guess going back to the whole use of live for marketing, where do we sit? I mean, people are doing it. Where do you think is a good use case? What are questionable use cases for marketers?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit skeptical of its utility for marketers. I think it's of enormous utility, but in a totally indirect way. And I'm going to take it back to the basics because at the end of the day, I think this is relatively simple.
Keep it simple, stupid. That's what we like to do.
So it is, look, the central value proposition for influencer marketing is that you've got, word of mouth at scale. You've got somebody credible advocating for your product or service, right?
Right.
So if this is something that can increase the accessibility, which it does, of the influencer to his or her audience, then it stands to reason that this will increase their credibility. And it will increase their trustworthiness, and it will increase the impact of their recommendation. So insofar as this matters, it matters because now you have everybody with sub 10,000 subscribers on YouTube anyway, which is where the real influencers are. I mean, I think frankly, like, I don't see them on Facebook. Facebook is still very much social. You don't have the same kind of influencers on Facebook, simply because you don't have brand, you don't have channel pages.
Celebrities have Facebook channels, influencers not so much. We've talked about that in previous episodes.
Right, but it all just supports their users. So I'm speaking specifically about YouTube here. It's going to increase the accessibility and the back and forth, the access, and essentially the community.
Right.
Because now, live, you have people tweeting in, you have people throwing comments in that the host can be immediately responding to, and you have that access, which is so key. Access.
Right.
That is so key. So that's going to increase the trustworthiness and credibility of those, which means for the regular videos, the pre-recorded non-live videos, I think they will end up having much more impact than they otherwise would have if an influencer really grabs on and does some live videos. What it doesn't mean though, I think any brand that wants to engage outside of a handful, and I'm gonna ask you which ones, because I've got a few ideas, but outside of a handful of brands that are really well suited, I think this would be a really foolish place for most brands to go, for the very, very simple reason, we have a tough enough time making sure that a host doesn't say anything inappropriate. And there's always that really, really, really tricky balance between keeping it authentic, keeping it real. We need you to be yourself, because that's what matters to us. But we also can't have you say something that is going to be really damaging to the brand, or we can't let you bring your own personal issues into your brand advocacy. If you're feeling sheepish about having advertising, and then that swerves into, well, I need to maintain my authenticity, so I'm going to make fun of you, the brand, which a lot of hosts have that issue. They feel bad about getting advertising, and so they're like, well, I'll maintain my cred with my audience by kind of making fun of the brand. That's a really, really stupid thing for a creator to do, obviously, because every other potential brand's going to see that.
Here's another thing that happens pretty regularly is that influencers, like all humans, make mistakes. So if I have a 30-day free trial and I accidentally say a 14-day free trial because for whatever reason I have 14 stuck in my head, boom, now you're representing the brand in an arena that's just wrong. Not intentionally, again, humans make mistakes, but that's an element of live that adds on brand risk that you just don't have when you can easily edit something.
Right. So not about control, not about controlling the message, but there are certain brand standards that need to be met, and you're not going to be able to do that live. So I see that as an enormous risk. And if most brands, if they're paying anything close to what they typically would for a video, these can be some really, really expensive mistakes. So I would be very, very skeptical of that. Now, let's end with who would this work for? Where is this a no-brainer and just such an obvious fit?
Sure. So we're talking about live video. We're talking about raw and authentic, which is really what influencer marketing is meant to be for brands. It's giving people with a platform to talk about their experience. And so the problem with live video is it can go too far. It swings the pendulum too far for most people because one is you have live content, it could get mundane and boring and long, and people are likely to tune out. But there are exceptions to that. So there are going to be live events which are going to go on over a long period of time. And so it makes all the sense in the world for brands to be willing to broadcast their annual shareholder meeting or their annual public meeting, whatever the case is, or a new product reveal. Great. Wonderful platform for live. But that's totally different than using influencer as using live as a platform to be able to advocate for a product. But here's some exceptions. So one is if there's something that is inherently long, maybe it's a local cricket match, maybe it's a video game contest, and you can insert something in the middle. I know this has been done with a beef jerky brand on Twitch marathon gaming sessions where, hey, if we're going back and forth on some really popular video game over a period of 6 hours, we're going to need to eat. Let's go ahead and have that sponsored by a beef jerky company. So at 2 hours into it, we're stopping, we're pausing, we're eating the beef jerky, we're talking about it because it's going to fit into the natural flow of a very, very long video.
But obviously, it's a very simple product that you don't have to talk much about. All you need to do is show the brand in eating the beef jerky. You don't need to talk about where the cattle came from or whether it was grass-fed. Or I mean, like there's no consumer education necessary.
Right.
So something that's really simple, really, really obvious, which the host cannot screw up. Like all you have to do is eat the beef jerky, right?
Right. And if that's what your product is, fantastic. This could be a really wonderful avenue for you because you've got people who are super engaged. If they're watching this video for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, I mean, you're looking at an engaged audience. And so to be able to have that audience and be like, oh, tell me more about the beef jerky, or be able to ask questions, or maybe it's just make fun of it as part of the chat.
Simple product placement, though.
Right, it can be powerful, but that is the exception, not the norm would be my argument.
Yep.
Anything else you have to say there in terms of brands that this works for before we try to wrap this up?
Yeah, no, I would just, it would be a caution. I mean, obviously this makes a lot more sense for brand voice stuff. There's a lot of access that the brand itself can give to their audience, which is good if done right. That also, it can, that brands need to control that, but that's not what this video is about. So yeah, I would just say be very, very careful with it. Recognize that it's ultimately going to be good. Keep doing what you're doing, advertising on the main stuff. It's going to increase the effectiveness of that, but otherwise don't be too quick to jump into live because it's fraught with potential landmines.
Yeah, absolutely. Said another way, there's a lot of views and eyeballs going to live videos. That does not mean that's where you should be putting your dollars as a marketing executive, and it certainly doesn't mean that's where you should put your influencer marketing dollars. So look, live video, here to stay, going to continue to grow. Exactly what that means in terms of where you spend your dollars, I think that needs to be shaken out, but for now, proceed with caution, and if you're going to go into it, make sure you have a product that's easy to understand and fits really well with the content that is a good match with live video. So look, we appreciate you bearing with us today, and hopefully you learned a few things. I know we always do.
We do, for sure. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time. So long for Detroit. From Detroit. Not for Detroit. I mean, we are for Detroit, but from Detroit.
Either way, we'll see you later.